live down the street from you or in the tree section or wherever, and they can sometimes get you that loan that Wells Fargo doesn't have a policy for. So, not to pick on Wells Fargo, but anyway, now we're going to move to James Flanagan. He's going to give us an overview of Southern California. He is an author, journalist, and columnist. I've read hundreds of his articles when he was writing exclusively for the LA Times, or maybe not exclusively, but as a daily. I know he wrote every Sunday in the business section for year after year after year. And I wanted to get a copy of his book. I know on Fox News, if you write a book, you're an expert. They always have their talking heads come with a book. He's got his books for sale outside. I bought the book. I read the book. It's a great book. You need to check that out. The book is called Smile, Southern California, You're the Center of the Universe. And I think that gives us enough of an introduction. He's a heck of a nice guy and a pleasure to be around. So we're going to ask him to say a few words about Southern California right now.
Thank you. Just a few words.
You want to deal with that? Put it on the tie. You picked that tie. It's a nice tie. Here, you can either just leave that there, and I think they can hear you from there.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, look, I'll be fast because you really want to ask questions, and you want to ask questions of these other people who are experts on lending and stuff like that. I'm going to just tell you why Southern California is still a great place and has a great future economically. First of all, there is our position on the Pacific Rim. We have a growing population. I've told you, I've said that often. We have a growing population here, not because of immigrants, but because of the offspring of immigrants, and a growing population is what? It's a growth market. But more than that, it's our position on the Pacific Rim. I had something in the speech, we are the western edge. We always think of ourselves as the West. We're California, we're the West, we're the western edge of the United States. But we're the eastern edge of the Pacific Basin, Pacific Rim, whatever you call it. If you are looking from Asia, we are the eastern edge. And we are a very important edge because this is where foreign trade comes in. Now we know that in the lost decade and the recent 2 decades, we had a great advantage here. We had all 43% of the import, the goods coming into the United States came through San Pedro and Long Beach and LAX. And that was a tremendous boon to our economy. I calculated it for that book, or somebody calculated, Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation, that foreign trade actually brought us 650,000 jobs. And that was including all of the jobs, you know, the warehousing, the trucking, the everything, the Alameda Corridor, and of course the lending and the freight forwarding and everything like that. Okay, that did go down, although it's coming back again. We had 15.8 million containers come through the ports a couple of years ago. Last year we had 11.8. Any business that drops from 15.8 million to 11.8 million has trouble. It's coming back again, but it is going to be different this time, looking out in the future. And why is it going to be different? Because the economies, you read every day, our economy is down, but China's growing, India is growing, confidence in all of those places. Well, they are growing. They're growing from a pretty low base, but they are growing, and they are enormous markets. And that's why everybody wants to be with China or India, but basically you have 1.3 billion or 1.2 billion people. You have an enormous future market, and what you have now, you have developments of companies here, companies in these countries. Now they collaborate with companies here in many ways. You have, you have companies in China, India, Singapore, Korea, Vietnam, the Philippines. I mean, we here in Southern California especially, have vast populations from those countries. There's an estimate that we have 500,000 Korean people right here in the South Bay, and I guess we do. We have people from all over. We have 20,000, there's the Indus entrepreneurs, the companies here that were founded by people from India and Pakistan. There's 20,000 in that Indus entrepreneurs organization. Medical device companies in Orange County, they're up to, I don't know, 500,000, 200,000 anyway. Medical device companies in Orange County with ties to Egypt, with ties to the Middle East, with ties to Iran, with ties to the University of California, Irvine. It's a great complex. We have, I like to tell stories because stories give you a concrete example. We have ties to Mexico. You may have noticed that. Well, there's a company in Compton. It's called Viz Cattle. What is Viz Cattle? There are probably few cattle anymore in Los Angeles County. Viz Cattle is a meat packing company. And what do they pack? They pack meat that is sent up from Mexico, from a company called Su Carne in Sinaloa. Su Carne, get it, you know, your meat. Well, the interesting thing about this meat packing operation, first of all, they cut the meat differently. They said, oh, we have a great trade. We supply some of the fast food restaurants because they like smaller cuts. And then the really interesting point, just to tell you how complex Southern California is and how business happens when you wouldn't even predict it. The fellow at Viz Cattle in Compton said, and we also sell meat, for shipment to Japan and Korea. And I said, you do, huh? He said, yeah, well, we don't actually supply the meat out of here. We make the contract here. People from Korea and from Japan contract with Viz Cattle in Compton in order to get a shipment of meat from Sinaloa, from Culiacan, down in Mexico, going to Japan and Korea. You say, well, why do they do that? Law, that's why they do it. Because any contract you make in Compton in the United States of America is probably a more dependable contract than one that you could make in other countries. And so you have this kind of business. Now, is this a business that creates an awful lot of jobs? It creates jobs, but it doesn't create an awful lot. And when you have, down in San Diego, I'm actually trying to do a new book on a great industry for the 21st century called life sciences, biotech, biomedical. It's growing, it's really a fascinating story. But I met people in San Diego. A woman named Zhu Shen, she has all sorts of businesses down there. And she said, my husband is founding an antibody company in Hefei, in Anhui province in China. And I said, oh, you live here and your husband lives there? She said, well, we live in both places. We go back and forth. He's over here now. They have a 7-year-old son, and she is taking off, I guess, tomorrow to go back to China, and they do business across the Pacific Ocean. And I'm actually going to wind this whole thing up very quickly. You say, well, all of this happens here. Why does it happen? Why does it happen in Southern California? Because we have technology and we have entrepreneurship and we have the infrastructure of intellectual property and research and development. We have more research universities in Southern California than anywhere else in the United States, perhaps in the world. We have UC Santa Barbara, UC Los Angeles, Irvine, San Diego, Riverside. We have Caltech, we have USC, we have the City of Hope, the Cal State Universities, and more. And I know your thoughts. You're going to say, yeah, that's California, and they're having to cut back. So what's so positive in your story? We are going to have to correct and fix some of the problems of California. I mean, that's, as my grandchildren say, that's a duh. All these protests that say, well, we can't cut back this and we can't cut back that. What do you mean you can't cut back? I remember once a long time ago, just a young reporter at Forbes magazine and there was some cut that was coming in New York City, and they threatened to cut the pensions